We're now going to continue on with part 2 of our case study of an image crawler that uses Java object-oriented features. In this second part of the lesson, we're going to take a look at the countImages method and all the associated methods that are part of the ImageCounter class. So let's start by taking a look at the countImages method. This method is called by the constructor, and it performs several sanity checks on the parameters it's passed before proceeding. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to check to see if the depth parameter exceeds the maximum depth. We get the maximum depth from our option singleton, and if we've reached the depth that's the limit, we're going to return 0. Then we're going to use the mUnique URIs hash set to try to add the page URI to the hash set. And if this is the first time it's seen that particular page URI, it'll add it and we're fine. Otherwise, if it's not the first time, we've already visited this URL, and therefore we're going to return 0 so we don't try to revisit it again unnecessarily. At this point, we're now going to call another helper method called countImagesImpl that will count the number of images on this page, as well as crawl any other links that are accessible via this page and count their images as well. So let's go take a look at the countImagesImpl method. This helper method performs the main image counting algorithm sequentially. I have other examples of this image counter that count things concurrently. I have one that uses Java completable futures. I have one that uses Java parallel streams. I also have one that uses Java reactive concurrency models as well. But this one uses a sequential algorithm. And so what it does is it starts by calling the getStartPage method, passing in the URI at that particular level. And here's what getStartPage does. GetStartPage is going to use a method that's defined in my JSuperWrapper class that will download or open the contents of that URI and then return it as a so-called document. A document is a JSoup data structure that contains the contents of an HTML file. Once we've got that particular page, then we're going to go ahead and sequentially count the number of unique images. We'll take a look at the countUniqueImages implementation in more detail here shortly. As the name suggests, countUniqueImages will count the number of unique images on this page. You can see here it's going to call a method called getImagesInPage, and getImagesInPage is going to go ahead and use another JSoup feature, which is going to select all the images on a page and return it as a data structure called element, which is essentially a type of Java collection. So we're going to get back a collection of these items. And then countUniqueImages is going to do some magic to extract that count in a unique way. Next, we're going to go ahead and count the number of images on links that are accessible via this page. And we'll also talk about this in just a moment as well. So this is going to recursively crawl from any URL that's linked on this page and then find the counts of images that can be accessible from that particular link. So you can see now we've got 2 items that come back, images in page and images in link. And the last thing we're going to do is add the sum of the images in page and the images in links variables, and that will be the total at that depth in the recursion. So let's take a look at the countUniqueImages method. This method, as you can see, takes the document, the page we're looking at, the current depth, and then also the elements, which is this data structure that JSoup provides us. And the first thing it's going to do is it's going to update the page URI to properly remove the index.html suffix. We want to get rid of that, so we replace that properly. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to iterate through the collection of image source URLs that JSoup gave us back, and we're going to count the number of unique images. And you can see what we're going to do here is we're going to use the mUnique URIs field in order to be able to see if we've already visited this particular image before. We've seen it earlier. If we have not, in other words, if add returns true, we increment the count by 1. Otherwise, we ignore the results. We don't do any updates at all to the count. The final thing we do is we return the count of unique images that are in that particular page. Let's take a look now at the crawl links in page method. This is a really interesting method because this particular method is going to recursively crawl through all the links that are accessible from this page. So what we're going to do is we're going to use another JSoup method called select, and this will select all the hrefs that are in that page. So we're basically going to get back a collection of the hrefs, which will be these links. And then for each of these hrefs, we're going to recursively call the countImages method. and we're going to pass in the link, and we're also going to increment the depth by 1. And so you can see that's going to start recursively from that particular link as though that was the new root URI. We're going to increment the depth by 1 so we don't go beyond the depth that we've defined in our options when we ran the program. And whatever comes back for that, we're going to update the results of image count to count each of those traversed links. So it's a pretty cool way to count the number of images that are accessible recursively. The getHyperlink method is going to abstract away from the fact that under the hood, JSoup differentiates between local file system access and remote website access, but getHyperlink hides all that. And the last thing that we do is we return the total count of all images that are accessible from this page. So that's the end of our analysis of part 2 of the image crawler case study. And now we're ready to walk through all the source code.